Looking for your next aquatic challenge? Then why not the 36-mile swim around the beautiful Channel Islands of Jersey? Welcome to the MYSWIM podcast. MYSWIM is every person's personal adventure in the water, whether it's learning to swim, wild swimming, channel swimming, winter swimming, another aquatic sport like water polo, synchronised swimming, triathlon, or something social with friends, the best kind. And everything in between, your happy place, your aquatic adventure, and together we can explore it. In this episode, we speak to Sally Minty Gravett about why the swim's important to her and the how, the when, and what it takes to swim round the island of Jersey. Sally is someone who's swum the channel over 6 different decades and has swum around the island multiple times during that period. She was awarded the MBE in 2016 and is about to fly out to the International Marathon Swimmers Hall of Fame to receive a special award for her services to open water swimming. Sally's someone I met back in 2006 before my first channel swim. The information and the support she gave me then and since has been great. We've remained friends and I always follow any of her swims and she's always supportive of any of mine. The information Sally gives within this podcast gives you what you need to know what it takes to undertake this challenge and whether it's something that you might be interested in. And the details of how to find out more are in the show notes. I enjoyed talking to Sally and listening to the great advice that she was giving about what it really takes and the detail behind this swim. I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and if you do, please follow so you don't miss future episodes. As always, you can find a unique podcast-themed piece of artwork that accompanies this episode on myswim.uk. Thank you. Welcome, Sally. Welcome to
Hi.
the MYSWIM podcast. Thank you for taking your time to talk to us about this beautiful swim around Jersey that I know is both
It
close
is
to
one of my
you.
favourites.
Yeah, I know. It's a home swim for you. But before we get into that, let's talk about your journey, if that's possible,
Well,
up to the swim and
I mean,
love a swim.
I came to the round Jersey swim quite late. A lot of people, like my younger brother, he was training to do the channel when he was trying to do it when he was 13 in 1976. And in preparation for that, my dad had said to him, "You need to do a round Jersey swim in preparation for it." And anyway, he got an appendicitis and couldn't do it, and couldn't do his swim until 1977 when he was 14. And he had befriended before that David Morgan. You may have heard of David Morgan from Scarborough, who, and between them, they wanted to be the youngest channel swimmer at 13, 14. And anyway, in the run up to his channel swim in 77, and I'd done the channel in 75, but I'd never done a round Jersey swim. And I still don't know why I never did. But when I look back at the history of Denise Lepennick, who was our first channel swimmer in 1966 at 16, she became the youngest Briton and didn't swim around Jersey and Jersey to France until 1969. So when David was training and my dad was in charge of my brother's training, he said to David, you need to do a big swim. And in those days, it was a 10-hour qualifying swim. I don't remember doing a qualifying swim for my channel swim in 75. I think that was something they introduced later. But my dad, in his infinite wisdom, said to my brother, "Look, come on, let's do a round Jersey swim." So he did it in the August. It was Battle of Flowers Day, 1977. Went round in 10 hours. I don't know, just over 10 and a half hours, very fast at the age of 14. And that was like a month before his channel swim. And then I went on his channel swim and watched him swim the channel, and he did a very fast channel swim as well. He's a very good swimmer as a young boy. And over the years from there, I mean, I travelled and I'd done lots of other things. I represented Britain and things like that. And then it wasn't until I'd done all my travelling and my mum had passed away, and I'd come back to Jersey in 86, and then I got married to Charlie. And Charlie had this passion for boating and swimming. And it took a few years. He came to Jersey with the boat that got wrecked in the 1987 storm. Got some money back on the insurance, but he then invested in another little boat. And he and his mate Tom, I don't know if you remember Tom,
No.
they decided to go around and play on the boats for a few hours, you know, in the summer when they were both free. And he had this wish and passion to reignite the round Jersey swims, because a lot had been done in the early 70s and then none for a long time. I think 82 was probably the last one before we got married, and that was Debbie Banks, and she did it in 82 when she was 14. Anyway, roll on time a little bit, and so we got married in 86, and then in about 88, we decided Charlie wanted to do a round Jersey relay. So we organised a round Jersey relay race for charity. That was his first footing into planning swims in Jersey. And then we were great mates with Ali Streeter in those days. And Ali used to come over for drinking weekends and swimming weekends. And she said she'd like to swim around Jersey. And then so we paired her up with a swimmer called Richard Flambard. And we thought, in our infinite wisdom, we could get them to go together with one boat and two kayaks, because they, on a short distance, they swam fairly close together. So as an experiment, it wasn't an experiment, we tried in 1989, we set them off together. I've only just found all the pictures of them greasing up on the breakwater, actually, and I've put them in an album, and I've sent some to Richard because Richard didn't have the pictures, and they're really great pictures. Actually, I have to show you when you come over next time.
Yeah.
And there was me greasing them both up on the breakwater. There was one little Delky Dory boat with Frida and Charlie and me in, and Richard had a kayaker and Ali had a kayaker. And so we set off from Elizabeth Castle breakwater on big spring tide, as you do, and we got all the way round to Greve de Lec, which, if you remember the map of the island, it's top left-hand corner, as Ali used to always say on the Google chat site. And the seas were getting really, really big. The boat was taking in water, and Richard was lagging behind. He was probably about a mile behind us at that point. Luckily, we had VHF radio, and we had to say to Richard, you have to pull into Greve de Lec. We can't go round this far apart. It was just too dangerous. So we tried to carry on in this little Delky Dory. If you don't know what a Delky Dory is, it's like a little flat-bottomed square dinghy. There's Frida, there's me, and there's Ali. There's me and Charlie and Frida. And the waves are just getting bigger as we're approaching the corner. And I said to Charlie, we're not going to get around this. The boat's taking in water. So we start to bail. We then decide to get Ali out of the water into the boat. And Ali's got this waterproof camera, and I'll never forget it to the day I die. And she had a flat in Dover, and she had these pictures made in a collage on her wall for many, many years until she sold the flat. I don't know where the pictures are now, but there's a picture of Ali trying to take a picture of Charlie bailing. And I'm not going to be rude, but Charlie said, if you'd like a picture taken of your insides, carry on trying to take pictures. Otherwise, get the bailer and bail, because we had to start bailing out, and we had to go into Greve de Lec. So they didn't do the swim that day. So we learned a lot. And that might have been 1988, actually. And then in 1989, we took them around separately with two boats, with a mother boat, and we learnt our lesson, and we did it, and it was very good. And Ali did a very fast time, and Richard did a very fast time. And so that was the first time I'd actually been on a round island swim, and we learnt a lot from that particular day. And I think as a result of that, Charlie decided to take it further and start doing it for the club. We were doing it for pleasure at that time. Nobody was being charged.
Mm-hmm.
And then so there was Ali Streeter, there was Richard. I don't think we had any other swimmers then for a couple of years. And then in 1992, I was training for my France-England swim. And in preparation for that, you had to do a 10-hour qualifying swim. And I said to Charlie, come on, let's see if I can get around the island. And I said, but don't tell anyone in case I can't do it. Of course, Charlie tells the JEP before I go. Sally's doing a round Jersey swim. It was a Saturday. Off I went. I completed it. But what the funniest thing was, Charlie and his mate Tom were in the boat with beer and Rolling Stones playing on the cassette player. And I said, I'm only doing a 10-hour swim and I don't want anybody to know I'm doing it. So we went out very secretly and we got from St Helier all the way round to the last point, and I was there in just before 10 hours. And so Charlie said, right, that's 10 hours. You want to get out now? And I said, ha, 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 ha. I didn't say that. But I said, no, I'm going to finish this. So I did it in 10 hours 47. And I was really pleased with it. And became the oldest person at the time. So it starts then, really, in 1992, that I was the oldest person to do it. Gosh. And one of the fastest times. So that was my first swim. And I absolutely loved the whole experience. I got very, very badly sunburnt on my back. And I had a friend of mine who was a physio who came and massaged me after and put after sun, which I was like bright red. And then I went on and did my France-England swim. And it's the same year as Lee Williams. Do you remember Lee Williams? Little Lee, we used to call her. Tiny, tiny girl, not even 5 foot. She'd already swum the channel once when she was 15. And she also did a France-England in 1992. And she was a great mate of Ali Streeter's. And Ali was kind of her mentor and coach, really, as she was mine. And then Ali'd already swum around Jersey. And I think that was the foray into starting to do swims for other people. And so Charlie did a lot of homework, a lot of stuff on maps and charts and, radios, and got a bigger boat. We got a bigger, the boats have got bigger all the time. And then in 1994, the Streeters and a family called the Williams, which is Lee and her family, they'd already done a channel relay. And they called themselves the Willy Eaters, the Williams and the Streeters mixed together. And it was a very rude logo. Yeah. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they were very funny. They were a great bunch of swimmers and really good swimmers, actually. David was the oldest, that was Lee's dad. And they wanted to come around and swim a relay around Jersey in 1994. And one of the brothers, because Ali had 2 brothers, and they were both very fast swimmers, but I think Neil, her younger brother, couldn't come. So they got Cliff involved. I'd met Cliff in Dover in 1992 when he was trying his first channel swim. Mm-hmm. You need to do a podcast with him as well. Yeah, very entertaining. And he came over and he went in the relay team, and they had a great day. And it was great fun. I was on the boat and they had a wonderful day. And after that, when he did the channel, he called us and said, right, I'm ready to do round Jersey. So we planned it, we organised it. And he came over, and Lee's dad, David, came over with him. And it was me, David, and Charlie in the boat. It was a little channel girl boat, a little open top thing that I loved. But it was really heavy, but it was a solid boat. It was good. We did a lot of round Jersey swims on that boat. It was fantastic. And anyway, we got into the boat. This is the funniest thing. We got into the boat in St Helier, and David Williams had an umbrella. And I'd never seen Cliff swim before. And so we got in, and I said to David, what have you got an umbrella for? It's a beautiful sunny day. He said, you wait. Anyway, Cliff started to swim, and of course David put the umbrella up because we all got soaked because of Cliff swimming. And anyway, so we went around. We had a big giggle, and Cliff got around. It was our first, and he insisted on paying as our first paying guest. So Charlie said, "Oh, I'll charge you £100," and he said, "No, I'll give you £200." Wow. And that's how it went. So Cliff was our first paying customer, and he loved it so much. Obviously, I don't know if you know, but he came back 2 years later and did another one, and then 2 years later did another one. And
yeah, he loves Jersey.
He did. It's one of his favourite swims. Yeah. And
he talked to me once.
I've been on all his swims as well. So so that was kind of how Charlie and I got involved in the round Jersey swims. I was president of the club already by then, so it was kind of really good for me and for Charlie. And Charlie then took it up very seriously and then started introducing Jersey to France swims later, but we can talk about that later. But the round Jersey swim, I think, is one of the most iconic swims in the world because of the scenery. It's a bit like Manhattan. You've done Manhattan, haven't you? Yeah. And it's the same. You swim at the same speed. You've got lovely milestones to reach and pass. Yeah. and see. And if you do your, I mean, I've had Americans come over, my friend Dennis, who loves maps and history and geography and all that stuff. And he'd been waiting for about 10 days before he did his swim because the weather was so bad. And by the time he actually got in to do his swim in 2002, I think it was, he tried a channel swim in 2001 and failed. That was his third failure or second failure or delayed success. And he said, I was in Dover at the time. And I said to him, why don't you come and do a round Jersey swim? I'll get you around Jersey. He said, I'd love to do that. So he came over and we've become really good friends. He's coming to New York to see me in 2 weeks. We've been chatting today, actually. And he went round Jersey and he knew by learning the maps before he went in exactly where he was. And, you know, he said, oh, we're opposite the ice cream place in St. Juan, and we knew this and we knew that. And he knew everything on the way round. So if you learn where you're going, you can follow your progress really, really well. And that's what I like about it.
Well, I've got
it's
a map.
not like
I've got a map for later on when we go in the talk. So when we go into the detail, because that's exactly what I enjoyed about it, because I'd been there holidaying for so many years and been around it, run around it, walked around it, cycled around it, to swim around it, and as you say, to know those points were it was very good, a special thing. And
it was amazing.
We can have a talk through that map and the clock face. You're right, it's the clock face that I had in my mind.
I love that. That was really good. Yes, I mean, he did that in 2002 and then he went back in 2003 and swam the channel in 12 hours and 8 minutes. So amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So should we get into a bit about the metrics of the swim and, you know, try and get under the swim of this under the skin of the swim? So distance, is it tidal assisted? Anything?
Right. So for many, many years, we've told everybody it's a 40-mile swim, but actually, realistically, it's about 36 miles.
Right. Okay.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't take it away from it at all, or the beauty of it. But we have a new commercial pilot who tells everybody it's 36 miles. So we kind of have to sing from the same hymn sheet, really. It's a tough swim in its own right. It's we do it on a spring tide as opposed to a neap tide because we use the advantage of the spring tides to take you round. Like Manhattan, you need the tide to get you round, otherwise you don't get round. And you need to be at a certain point before or just after high water on the bottom right-hand corner, because that's when the tide turns. And it turns at certain points at certain times of the tide. And we've learned that. And we now can gauge that if you've got a faster swimmer, you can start a bit later. If you've got a slower swimmer, you can start a bit earlier. I mean, we know how to do all that now, but generally speaking, you start about 2 hours before high water to pick up the tide to your best advantage.
Okay. What sort of training plan, getting yourself ready when you get into the
training plan? My experience for everyone is the worst thing you can do is overtrain. And I think through the winter, everybody should be doing conditioning, sprinting, getting your aerobic fitness up, making sure you're resting. Technique is key. You have to get your technique correct. I think that a lot of people end up with shoulder injuries because they do big swims with bad technique.
Yeah.
And they complete their swims, which is memorable, but then they end up having shoulder surgery, you know, a lot of tendonitis because they've overdone it with a defective stroke. So if you can get the stroke right first and then do your swims, and I think that, again, you know, conditioning through the winter, and then as of beginning of May, start building up your time in the sea. You've done all the hard work, and then it's just acclimatizing to the temperature. And I also think that you need to do build-up swims in the process. So if you've never done, you know, a big swim, and the precursor for a round Jersey swim is exactly the same as a channel. It's a 6-hour minimum qualifying swim, and under 16 degrees, it's exactly the same as the channel rules now. But it doesn't do anybody any harm to do an 8-hour swim. But you need to give yourself a month between that big swim and your swim, so you get time to rest. rest the muscles, really.
I know you do a swim camp.
I do.
So on the circuit and around the swimming world, everyone's comes away from there really enthused and positive around it, and enjoy it. So I didn't want us to go through the Jersey discussion without exploring that a bit more and understanding.
Sure. I started it about 13 years ago. This will be my 12th this year, or 11th, I think. And I started it with a bit of fun and had Nick Adams and the Colleen Blair and a few of the Nick Adams boys over, and we had the best weather, and we had a really good fun week, and it's just built up from there. I don't have too many people. One of the best ones I did was when the Army and the Navy and the Air Force came over and brought their own squads over to help train with us.
Was that
in
Rob Healy? Was that Rob Healy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. He's coming to mine this year, actually. He's coming back.
Is he?
Yes. He's coming. Anyway.
Lovely guy.
So that was great. We had probably 60 people, but I wasn't in charge of the 60 people. They all looked after their own battalions or their groups, if you like, and they just joined in with what we were doing and looking after their own while we were doing it. So it was brilliant fun. We had the battle back, the injured servicemen. It was fantastic. We had a fantastic week.
It's great work.
I don't remember exactly what year that was, but we've just gone on through. We didn't have one in 2020 because of the world, and we didn't have one in 2021. And then last year I had the first one for a little while. I only had, I think, 8 or 9 people. It was lovely. It was really, really nice. And the nice thing about it is that we can do everything tailored to the tide and the weather. And I feel that a lot of people feel that the personal touch, we do stroke analysis, one-to-ones with everybody, like the first couple of days.
Excellent.
I try and it's a very sociable week. It's not a hardcore week. And I tailor it to the people's needs. And we do what they want. If they're doing a big swim and if they want to do a 4-hour swim or 6 hours swim, we try and get that done. I did my 6-hour swim last year, as well as 2 others. And that was it. And then this year, I think we've got 3 people wanting to do this 6-hour swims. A lot of people this year are just coming for 3 or 4 days, and then that's fine too. And we try and do a different bay every day in the mornings, which is fun. So give everybody a little bit of a sightseeing tour of the island and showing them the beauty. And then in the afternoon, we build up the time in the water. We do some feeding off the kayak or the boat, and we do. If they want to go out on a rib trip, they can do that. It's up to them. They pay a nominal fee for the week, or they can pay daily, or they can pay half and just do mornings or afternoons or one or the other. It's very flexible. I like to be flexible. They all get a nice goodie bag with a t-shirt and pen and a little notepad, and it's fun. And I get a lot of
and they're quite varied. The people coming on it, varying abilities, as I say. Some come for social, some come for channel, or even around Jersey, hopefully.
Yes, a lot of them are doing Jersey to France, around Jersey, or channel swim or channel relays. And some of them just come just for the crack, really. And it's a really nice social week. It's a gentle week. We try and eat out with each other as often as people want to. This year, for the first time, I've managed to get 2 houses, so everybody's got free accommodation where they go and house sit for my friends.
Wow.
And so they get free accommodation as well. So it's great. Last year, we introduced the Wim Hof Fundamentals course as well. And we're doing that again this year.
That sounds really good, Sally. I'm sure people will want to find out a bit more about that. Whereabouts can they find out?
I have a Sal Swim Camp's Facebook page.
Okay.
They can contact me direct by email, or find me on Facebook, or just message me by telephone.
Okay.
I know that people will be able to find me somehow. I'm kind of quite open on social media. I have no problems with it.
Okay, well, I'll put the links in the show notes to this one, so people can find out a bit more about that, because I feel like I've missed out on that one.
No, well, you can come anytime.
Yeah.
Some people come just for the sake of doing it, really.
Sounds ideal for me. So let's get into a little bit about that swim then, and sort of talk us through the stages of the swim. I put out a little map. I was trying to get my head around trying to explain, and let me see if I can share that up. Those who see this on YouTube and that, hopefully you'll be able to see the map. And for those that are listening on podcast, we've got the Jersey map, and then I've got a clock face around the outside so that we can start talking through some of the key
Sure.
points and the stages then. So
you start in St Helier down in the south. So
Yeah.
just above the number 6.
Yeah.
There's Elizabeth Castle Breakwater, and we start there in general. Some people have started elsewhere now. We can start in different places.
All right.
We have to adjust the start time accordingly. But ideally, it's about 2 hours before the high water mark. We start at St Helier, Elizabeth Castle Breakwater.
Yeah.
And we swim anti-clockwise around the island.
Okay.
And ideally, you need to be bottom right-hand corner where the number 4 is, which is La Roque, within 2 hours. I like it.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting technical now.
I like that.
I can do this before.
That's very good.
And I'm going to get beyond myself, and someone's going to go.
So because the tide's coming in, and that's a very, very rocky part of the island on an incoming tide.
Yeah.
And we obviously don't need a lot of breeze around there because there's a lot of sharp, pointy, hard rocks that can be kissed quite a lot by the boats. Anyway, so we need to try and get there by 2 hours. And if you're there a little bit after, it doesn't matter, which is why we set off at 2 hours. And then from there, you head towards Goree, but you start taking a wide berth.
Right.
And wider than that. But anyway, so go up towards the 3.
Goree Castle up there, isn't it? Goree Castle. Yes, I remember points. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful money shot there with your swimmer in there, the front. And then you head north, and you just follow the coastline in a lovely. The tide just takes you, to be fair, and you just follow this lovely circle around the top of the north coast. You're quite a long way off. You're about a mile off, at least a mile off the coast. Yeah. And then you follow it all the way around, and you're normally about there where you are right now.
Yeah.
Usually 5 to 6, between 4 and 6 hours, you can be there at any time. The tide there is racing at 6 or 7 knots. You are racing against the tide.
Do you know what? I still talk about this bit on the top here. My lads do as well, because it gets quite bumpy on the top there as well, doesn't it? Because of the on the spring tide.
But it takes a little bit of weather. Yeah,
and
it's going with you.
Yeah, that's right. But I remember talking to my lads, and we worked out roughly the time it took me to go across that top there. Every 100 meters was faster than Michael Phelps's 100-meter time in the 2008 Olympics. It was such a great feeling.
I know we've had 8 or 9 knots up there. If you get the tide right, there's a gully that you follow, and then you go there, and then where you are now, which is the top left-hand corner, is the crucial part,
by Plymouth,
because that's where the big swell happens.
Right.
Invariably, even when it's a flat day, you can get a big swell out there, because that is the turning point. So we've had swimmers do.
So for those on those on the podcast, we've just getting between 11 o'clock and 10 o'clock now, going round. Round by Plymouth. Yeah. And
this is probably, I'm going to say, about 25 miles in at this point. And you can do that 25 miles. Some people have done that in 5 hours. Some people have done it in 7 hours and still got around. So there's a great variation because the tide for a long time. The tide is never against you unless you go really, really slowly and can't get to this point. When you get to this point here, which is Plymouth, top left-hand corner, you could see Corbière, which is the bottom left-hand corner, which is the most iconic lighthouse that you've seen at the beginning of Bergerac. You see it every single time. And then as soon as you can see that, the tide pulls you right down that west coast. And that west coast it feels like it's really boring, but you really go probably maximum of 2 hours before you get to Corbière. It is a 2-hour swim down there. And just go straight down. I love this. I love this. It's very, very clever. And
I
then,
just know something's going to go. It's going to be on it. While we're on this bit, I remember coming round here, and it, as you say, it was quite bumpy, quite fast going through. I remember coming down here and it being as flat as a pancake, almost
out of the breeze.
Almost instantly. It was so strange, so quite surreal, really. Beautiful.
Yeah, if you get if you have an easterly wind, that's the beauty of Jersey. If you have an easterly wind, then on the west coast it's going to be flat.
Right.
If you have a northerly easterly wind, it's going to be lumpy on the top and flat on the south and the west.
Right.
So that's the beauty. If on my swim camp we get a strong northeasterly wind, we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If we get a northwesterly wind, we'll stay east. And that's the beauty of the island, the way I know it and we know it. There's always somewhere to swim that's safe and not too rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where you are now, you're at Corbière, and you've literally got less than 2 hours to do for your swim.
Yeah.
And then you just come straight along the south coast, and the tide, you come quite close now, and the tide is really picking up. And where you are now, which is the last point at Noirmont, at just above numbers between 6 and 7 o'clock, then that is when the tide is pumping you probably 10 knots, and you can just float to the breakwater as long as you get it right. So it's fantastic. And that's like 40 minutes to the finish there. So
that's beautiful.
Look, you've just swum around the island, Mickey. Well done.
I think my tracker must have looked like that as well. Then, for me, the Corbière, let's just say the lighthouse, that's like the signature shot for me. I was saying, you get your certain pictures of certain swims that
the money shot
stick in your mind. It's such a beautiful rugged skyline.
Rory Castle would be a lighthouse, definitely the money shot.
Lovely. So cruise and feeding plans. So let's just say we've done let's go 10 and a half hour swim, something like that around there. What sort of feeding plans have you seen, or do you do yourself?
So we try and recommend that people don't have a feed between the start and the bottom right hand corner, because it's so rocky. We need to get you past there before we stop the boat, because it's quite dodgy, and sometimes it's in the dark and you can't see the rocks. So we try and get people to swim for at least 2 hours before they have their first feed. That's a thing you need to all be prepared for if you're going to do this swim. And then after that, then you can feed how often you wish, but I would recommend hourly feeds. I think it's a maximum of 11-hour swim, really. If you look at all our records, the average time is between 10 and a half and 11 and a half hours. It's not like a channel swim where it can vary between 7 hours and 28 hours. It's tidally organized, really.
Yeah.
As far as feeding is concerned, I'm not going to say what's right and what's wrong. People have to learn how to feed. Over the years, I have learned lots of different things. When I did my first channel swim in 1975, I had semolina, I had peaches, chocolate, and hot chocolate.
Gosh.
And I think squash. And my coach at the time said to me, "Let me know when you're hungry and I'll feed you." There wasn't a set thing like you do now, where you go, right, I'm going to swim for 2 hours and I'm going to feed hourly, keep my energy levels right. The science wasn't there in 75 like we know now. And that changed over all my swims that I've done. It's changed every single time. And now I try and recommend people practice with a carbohydrate drink of their choice. And there's a lot out there.
There are a lot more now, aren't there? Yeah.
Some people won't agree with Maxi or whatever it is now, Carbo Pro, which is the American version of Maxim. But there's a lot of options out there. I used Tailwind on my channel swim last year, and it worked really well. But I always have it very weak as well. And I think my go-to drink is warm mint tea with some honey in it, and you can put a bit of fruit sugar there if you like. I much prefer that than a carbohydrate feed. I think on my channel swim last year, I may have had 4 carbohydrate feeds in the whole day. I had bananas. I had the little marshmallow, the marshmallow squares with Rice Krispies. Yeah, they're lovely when you swim. Little Battenberg cakes are great. Yeah, but everybody has to find what works for them.
Find it
and
during
it's
the
not
training.
the same for you. And yeah, exactly. And you have to practice on that. And sometimes in your practice swims, it'll work, and on your big swim, it won't. And you have to be prepared for every eventuality. I've been so sick on channel swims, but fine in training swims. If people want advice on feeding, I can give them lots of ideas to try. But everybody is different, and everybody has to practice.
Have you had any strange ones on your...
Ali Streeter used to have, she went through all sorts of things. I've seen her eat tuna sandwiches. I've seen her eat sausages. Kevin Murphy used to have sausages. Bovril, Charlie used to eat sausages on his swims.
My strangest one that just needed the calories. It was on when I did the Champions, and between the races, I had pork pie and Stilton. I know, I know. It was just take the calories in and do it pork pie. And so I can't even remember. I think I might even had coffee or a hot chocolate with it as well. But I think just the thought of it now, I think, crikey, how do I get away with it?
I have a swimmer called Eric Blakely, who's a mountaineer, and he tried the channel in 2001 and didn't make it, got 16 hours. And then when he finally did it in 2003, it was a 20.5-hour swim. And we got to about 16 hours. And I said to him, Eric, look, we're in new territory now. You've never been here before. Tell me what you'd like to eat. He said, I'd really like a chicken and bacon and mayo sandwich. And I went, well, I'm really sorry, but I don't have one. He said, there's one in my bag. So I opened his bag and there was a half-eaten sandwich. And I gave him a bit and he went, oh, that tastes so good. At the end of the day, when you've been swimming for that length of time, your tummy's going to be empty. And I think if you fancy something like that, why not?
Anyone else trying it, even on a different swim, same person, different swim, just won't agree with them because we change. So other people will be different. So no, that's good. That's good. Crew, got any recommendations for on the swim, type of crew and size of crew?
So on your crew, you need people who know you and how far you can be pushed, because there are going to be difficult times on your swim. And you don't need a lot of people. You need one person who's in charge of feeding and another person to look after you, and you could switch. So I would say 2 people is enough, and depends on the size of the boat as well, but 2, maximum of 3. And you don't want anybody that's too emotionally close to you. Because if you're having a hard time, it's hard for them to watch that. You need people who are going to be tough love, really. When the going gets tough. Also need people that aren't going to get seasick.
That's probably the most important, I would say.
Yes, that can crucify a swim.
It can. And you're always worrying about them as well, isn't it? Unless really focused on the swim. So sea life is one thing we haven't talked about. I know that you've had some nice ventures around this one. We've had some nice sea life in Jersey.
There's a few barrel jellyfish, a couple of compass jellyfish. I think I've only ever been stung in Jersey 2 or 3 times in the whole of my swimming career. So it's really not that bad. Lots of dolphins. We do get dolphins that come and see you, especially on the Jersey to France swim as well. We get them on the northeast coast, and then we'll get them on the south coast. In fact, on my 2nd and 3rd round Jersey swims, in preparation for my 2-way channel, I did them 2 days apart. And each time in St. Albans Bay at the last bit, there was dolphins playing around. So it was lovely. Just seeing me in, really. It was nice. There's nothing else to worry about, really.
Anything you would change about this swim?
No. I think it's a perfect swim, and I think it's a really good pre-channel swim, or any big swim you're going to do. I think it's a great confidence builder, because you swim a long distance in a short time relatively to a channel swim. Everybody I know that's done it has really, really loved it and enjoyed it.
Just want to rack my brains on, what else you would change for the swim.
Nice.
I think the only one I would be to get the weather so that you could say what day the swim was going to go on, like you do with some others. That's the only bit, because it's like the channel. It's like so many other, lovely swims, you've got to take that part that goes with it, that roller coaster of emotions, isn't it?
That's
Apart
the
from that.
sport that we are in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on Jersey then, around Jersey, one of the things is the when now then. So when does it take place? What time of the year? What are the rains?
It's like the channel swim season. So we've had swims happen in May, cold. It's not nice. So June onwards, really, middle of June, I would say. Wind is a big problem in Jersey. The wind speed and direction. The club, there's three ways of doing the swim. You can book through the Jersey Long Distance Swimming Club. Actually, they're a registered charity now, and they do it with all our volunteers, and they will provide you with your observer, and you book through the club, and they will provide your observer. And if you want to bring crew, then that's fine. They've got a lovely new club boat this year, got a toilet. The price has remained at £800 for that swim with the club for the last, I think, probably 4 or 5 years. I don't think they've had to put it up. So that's one option. The other options are Matt Clark with Lionheart, been going about 7 or 8 years. He's got a big boat. And again, it's all down to the wind and weather. So he can go out in rougher conditions. Now, because he's got a bigger boat, he has to have a small boat with a pilot to take you through the first 2 hours. So Matt goes wide, and the little boat takes you inshore like the club boat does. And once you get into Greville Bay past La Roque, then Matt comes and takes over, and the little boat goes back to St Helier. And then he stays with you for the rest of the swim. So that's how he operates. So they piggyback each other to the finish. Anyway, so that's the second option. And the third option is if you know anybody that is willing to pilot you and take you around in their own boat, you can have the swim ratified if you want to, or you don't have to. I'm taking a couple of swimmers this year on a friend's boat because they've been asking me to do it for a long time. Finally, I'm getting around to doing that this year, which I'm really excited about. Just 2 friends. So there are options to do it, and you just have to find a tide and hope for the weather.
You're always busy, Sally. Always busy. You're about to go off to America, aren't you?
I'm about to go off and have a little bit of sunshine and a holiday to get my suntan. And then I'm off to New York, get an award from the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame, which is going to be a great weekend.
Yeah. Well, say hello to Ned and the crew when you see them all day.
I will.
I've got one more question. We have a section on the listener's fictitious swim off.
Okay.
Okay, then. So, and it's from a listener, Alex Brown from Surrey.
Right.
And he's got here, he said, in a swim-off, who would win in a race between Tony the Tiger and Barloo Bear? Do you know Tony the Tiger from Kellogg's fame?
From Kellogg's, yeah.
And Barloo Bear from Jungle Book. I don't think there's a right answer here, so I think...
Baloo the Bear. Who would win? I'd say Baloo the Bear.
Yeah.
Tigers don't like water.
Yeah, and also, would it be over certain distances? Would one have the edge over the other one? And would it be wetsuits or fur?
I would say fur, and I would say you need to pick a short distance for those two.
I think you would.
Bear would be very heavy.
So I'm going to give him the answer that it's Barloo Bear over, let's say, less than 50 metre, 25 metre swim, I'd say, and it skins. Okay, he says here the detail's important, so I think we'll make that a regular feature.
That's quite funny,
yeah. All right then. Oh look, so I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too. It's been
I have.
People are going to take so much information from this, and I just think you're going to get a load of more people wanting to book up.
Brilliant.
Okay then. Well, look, I really hope you've enjoyed this enough to want to come back and talk about
Absolutely.
one of your many challenges that you've taken on. Which one? Particularly, I'd like to do the 6 decade swim if we get a chance to come back after the awards.
Talk about that.
Because I know obviously that's the 6th one, particularly the connection with Charlie would be lovely to explore that a bit more.
It was a very special swim.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that one. But for now, look, thank you, Sally. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mickey. Really good to talk to you.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, look, have a lot of fun. I know you will.
Thanks. Cheers, Mickey.
I'll see you again.
Thanks.
See you then. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
To capture the joy of each individual MySwim, we have an exclusive, bright, fun MySwim podcast themed artwork design. If you enjoy the podcast and the guests, we'd appreciate your support to keep these podcasts going, to help spread the knowledge to a wider community. and please check out the designs on www.myswim.uk. Let us know what you want to hear about, and together let's build the community. We really want to positively celebrate and promote all aspects of aquatics, and particularly the mental health benefits that swimming can bring, and would love you to be a part of it. Join the community, give us your feedback, follow, and tell us all about your individual MySwim.